If you have a bunch of fleece scraps left over from other projects, you can easily combine them to create a cozy scrap scarf. This simple tutorial will walk you through how to sew your scraps together for a unique winter creation. You can use the pattern in the link below for a scarf that is 60 inches long, or create your own scarf that is whatever length you want it to be. So the first step is to arrange all of your fleece scraps. Lay out your fabric scraps and start to organize them in an aesthetically pleasing way to you. Make sure the scrap collage is big enough for your scarf pattern to fit. And remember, it needs to be twice as long as the pattern so that you can either cut it on the folds or cut two and sew together. It's okay for the scraps to go beyond the edges of the scarf pattern. You just want to be sure that the final scrap collage is not too small. Also, remember you need to overlap the fabric pieces to account for seam allowance. This is significantly easier if you're working with straight edges, so I recommend cutting straight lines and right corners on your fabric scraps. Once you're happy with your scrap collage, your scrap design, you want to sew them all together. So one by one, you'll sew each of the scrap pieces together. I tend to do this in sections. So also sew smaller chunks of the fabric together to make bigger pieces, and then also those bigger pieces together. Now, as a note for finishing the seams, since this is fleece fabric, it generally doesn't fray much, so you don't really have to finish the seams. However, if you want a neater look on your final scarf, I like to finish them anyway, but instead of doing an actual felled seam, I'll just fold the seam on the back over and top stitch it in place. It makes the scarf a little bit more durable in the end because now you have 2 rows of stitches. Once you have all of your scraps sewn together, you want to actually cut out your scarf. So overlay the scarf pattern on top of your fleece collage and then cut it out. So rather than folding the scrap collage in half and cutting the scarf pattern, I decided to just cut it one layer at a time and shift the pattern to the other side of the scarf. But you can also just cut 2 and then sew them together in the center. It will just make your final scarf a little tiny bit shorter. Now all that's left to do is hem the final scarf. Again, since fleece tends to be bulky and doesn't fray, this is actually not 100% necessary. I just usually like to do it for a slightly neater look. And rather than doing a double term hem, I'll just fold it once so that the final hem is not too bulky. And there you have it. You have your finished scrap fleece scarf. A truly unique creation.